Hi y'all, so the month's about to end, so I decided to make a video going through my Letterboxd diary for the month of July and just talking about the movies that I watched slash rewatched and going through them from the 1st of July through the 31st of July. Up first, July 1st, I watched Gamera the Brave, which was the last Gamera movie, not including Super Monster, that I had not seen yet. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch Super Monster because it's basically just a bunch of different Gamera movies cut together. But I watched Gamera the Brave and I actually really loved it. And then I also watched The Hunger Games. I rewatched that and Hunger Games Catching Fire. I gave Hunger Games Catching Fire a 4.5 star. I think it's genuinely one of the best American sequels to an action film. And then July 3rd, I watched The Return of the Living Dead, which was a rewatch. I decided to show my girlfriend Return of the Living Dead on July 3rd because that's when the film takes place. I think it's a classic zombie movie, an all timer. And then with that, I watched Flesh Eater. I gave that 2 stars. I think that it's pretty bad. Same with My Dear Killer. I watched that July 5th and did not like that. I went on a big Vinegar Syndrome watching spree where I watched through a bunch of Vinegar Syndrome titles I had not seen yet that I owned, and Flesh Eater and My Dear Killer were the start of that. And then that same day I watched Disconnected, which I actually really liked. It's this weird art house slasher movie about this guy that's going on dates with this girl who doesn't realize that he's sort of a serial killer. Meanwhile, she's getting weird phone calls from a guy that at the beginning of the movie you see an old man go into her house and then disappear, and they never address that again for the rest of the movie until the very end when he walks out, and it's completely unexplained who was actually calling her because by the time that they catch the guy, she's still getting phone calls. And then I watched Amityville: The Evil Escapes, which is another Vinegar Syndrome title. I really liked it. It's a made for TV horror movie. And then, keeping with the Vinegar Syndrome stuff, I watched Play Dead July 7th, which is nowhere near as good as you would expect it to be, considering the fact that it's a film about a dog that is possessed by some evil spirit to kill people. And then, July 7th, I watched Hell House for the first time. A really good mockumentary film about some people that open up a haunted house in a building that has some weird evil cult in it. I also rewatched Slumber Party Massacre 2 that night, which going into the rewatch, I thought that Slumber Party Massacre 2 was actually my favorite of the franchise, and that franchise is one of my favorite horror movie series. I think that there isn't a bad one, even though the third one is pretty forgettable. But having rewatched it and revisited it, I did not like it as much as I did the first time. And then July 8th, I rewatched Everything Everywhere All at Once, which holds up just as well as it did the first time I saw it in the theater. And then July 8th, I went on a full marathon that day. I watched Petey Wheatstraw for the first time. I thought that was really good. It's the first Rudy Ray Moore film I've ever seen, and for some reason, even though I'm into films like that, I always had to be in a very certain specific mood in order to get into them. And I really enjoyed this one. I'm very excited to watch more Rudy Ray Moore Vinegar Syndrome titles. And then I watched Girl School Screamers for the first time, which is a trauma slasher that feels like a trauma film, but I really liked it. And then capping off that day, I rewatched Pieces, which, in my opinion, is one of the most easily accessible giallo films. I think to anybody that has never seen a giallo, it's probably the film that I would best describe as being the bridge between giallos and slashers. And then July 9th, I watched Wonder Woman for the first time, not the DC superhero movie, the one about the girl assassins that live on an island where they're capturing athletic men to put people's brains inside their bodies. And I think Jordan Peele has some explaining to do. And then that night, I also watched The Grave, which is my favorite VSA at this point now that I've seen that. It's this set in, I think it was set in New Orleans, crime drama that feels like it was made for TV, and it probably was, but in like the nice way that I really like. And then July 11th, I watched three films, starting with The Sister of Ursula. I thought that one was all right. And then I also watched Mean Girls for the first time, which I thought was actually really great. And then I watched Popcorn, which out of all the stuff that I watched this month, Popcorn is the one movie that I expected to actually really love, and I was all for it for the first like 20 to 30 minutes. And the kills were fine. The kills were actually really great. Like the insect coming down from the scaffolding and piercing the guy, that kill was cool. The actual killer was cool, but something about it just did not click with me. And then I watched Jack Frost on the 12th, which I counted as a first time watch, but I'm pretty sure that I watched it as a kid. I think that this is one of those movies that my dad actually showed me, but I might be thinking of the sequel. I'm not sure. I don't know if the sequel has a shower scene. The first one does, and I remember seeing the shower scene as a kid. And then July 13th, I've been going through the Leprechaun franchise. I watched Leprechaun 2 for the first time, which I liked more than the first one. I watch a few Leprechaun films throughout the month. Bird Box Barcelona, I watched on July 14th. I thought that one was a pretty disappointing sequel to a movie that I think gets shit on a lot more than it should now because it got so hyped up when it came out. But the first Bird Box was pretty good. July 15th, I watched A White Dress for Marielle, which is one of my favorite Forgotten Gialli films at this point. It has basically every single thing that I want in a Gialli, or at least a Vinegar Syndrome level Gialli. A bunch of weird shit happens in a mansion full of people that have questionable moral integrity, and there's a dinner table scene where everyone's just completely shit faced and they're dressed in these wild ass costumes that I think that they found in the attic, which is gigantic. And after that, it cuts to a scene where this girl is dancing naked for about 20 minutes, it feels like, and she's just going throughout the room, interacting with every single person who's completely shit faced as well. And then July 15th, I watched Leprechaun 3 for the first time, which at this point, I have three Leprechaun films left to watch, and I think out of all of them, this one is my favorite. I'm considering doing a video once I finish the entire franchise and ranking them, but I haven't completely decided yet. And then I rewatched My Bloody Valentine. I showed my girlfriend that, and she actually really liked it. It has one of my favorite groups of characters for any slasher film. I think they're the most likable characters in any slasher. It's interesting because unlike most slashers where the characters are teenagers, it's blue collar workers that work in a coal mine. And then I watched Nine Guests for a Crime, which I didn't really like very much. I followed that up with Deadpool, which was a really good rewatch. It holds up. And then July 18th, I watched Tropic of Cancer, which was not a good movie. I gave that a 1 star. It's one of the few movies I actually gave 1 stars to this month. And normally, I am pretty lenient when it comes to movies. I don't normally rate them below a 2. So when I actually do give a film a 1 star, it's pretty shit. And then July 18th, I gave Leprechaun 4 in Space a 3 star. I thought that for a movie in the Leprechaun franchise that takes place in space and also has, I think Brad Dourif was in it, wasn't he? I can't remember. I know Brad Dourif was in Critters 4, which was also set in space, but he might have been in this one also. For a film set in space where you didn't really have to do much for it to be good, it barely got 3 stars for me. And then I watched Vi on July 19th as part of the Severin All the Haunts BRs box set. And I actually thought that that was really good. I think that aside from maybe the surfboarding on the coffin scene, it has some of the best special effects I've probably seen in any movie, at least in terms of like the editing with the special effects. I think that the scene where the coffin slams shut and all the candles come out is incredible. I don't know how they did that at the time. And then I watched Wishmaster 2 Evil Never Dies on July 20th. I think it's a pretty good sequel. I haven't been excited to watch the Wishmaster sequels because I'm a big fan of the first one, but even then, I don't think it's this classic, can't be touched horror movie. It's all right. It's a 4 star movie, and based on what everyone had said to me, is that the Wishmaster sequels suck. And if they're any worse than this, then the next two are going to be pretty hard to get through. I just thought that this was entertaining because he spent half the movie wandering around in a prison just causing havoc. And then July 20th, I also watched The Ghastly Ones, which is a really good Andy Milligan movie. Probably one of my favorites at this point. I really liked it. Apparently, there's a remake in the box set that I watched it from called Legacy of Blood, which is way worse and not nowhere near as fun. I haven't got to that one yet. I think I only have a few movies left in the set to watch. So I started with the Ghastly Ones in terms of coming back to the Milligan set. And then the 21st, I watched another All the Haunts BRs film. I watched Eyes of Fire, which is basically The Witch, but from 1983. I think that The Witch is still probably a better movie than Eyes of Fire. And then on the 22nd, I rewatched Black Christmas, which is an all-timer for me. It is one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. I'd probably put it in the top 5. It holds up every single time. Every single time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. I think that it has one of the, just like Black Christmas, it has a really likable cast of characters. I think that the killer's really interesting. I think they have interesting kills. It's shot really well. The suspense is nice. And then on the 22nd, I watched Torture Dungeon by Andy Milligan, which is not a good Milligan movie. That is the last Milligan movie I watched for the month because after Torture Dungeon, I could not watch another one for a little bit. I'm gonna get back to it, but that movie sucked ass. And then on the 23rd, I watched Clown House, but I watched Clown House on my tiny phone screen at work in the shittiest aspect, not the shittiest, the shittiest video quality that you could possibly see a movie in on a tiny screen broken up by my breaks at work. And this is the only way that I could watch it. I don't think I would watch this movie if it was at home, but for what it was a really creepy clown movie. I think that the clowns were really effective. And then on the 23rd, I watched Predators, which I'm finding out with the Predator franchise that they don't hold up as well with rewatches. Because the first time that I watched Predators, I thought that it was just as good as the original movie, which, unless that movie also does not hold up very well, is not the case at all. This movie kind of drags bad. And then I followed that up with House of Frankenstein, which is another drag. I have realized that I'm not a big fan of the Universal Monster Legacy sequels. Like, there's a handful that are really, really good, like Invisible Woman and Revenge of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and even Son of Frankenstein from the same set as this one. But this one, and I think it was I can't remember what the one before this one was called, but the last two from the set that I've watched have been bad. And then I watched The Alien Factor, just like with Clown House, broken up with my lunch breaks at work on my phone screen. But unlike Clown House, number one, I could actually tell what the fuck was going on the screen. But also, this movie was good, and it's by a guy who I actually kind of like as a filmmaker. I've only seen three of his movies now. I saw Night Beast. It's a Vinegar Syndrome title, and I really wish that Vinegar Syndrome had just released Alien Factor and Galaxy Invader in a set with Night Beast, because they're all basically alien invasion movies made on a super low budget with people who probably have never acted in any other movie other than these movies. I wish that they would have just committed to releasing all of them so I could have them. I really like this one. And then on the 25th, I watched the Child's Play remake, which is another example of a movie not holding up as well on a rewatch. I gave it 3 stars, but it's probably teetering closer to 2.5. I think I was being a little lenient on it. It is not anywhere near as enjoyable as it was the first time that I watched it. And then on the 25th, also, I watched The Hearse, which was a first time watch, and it immediately went into my sale pile. And I have since then traded it for the original Hills Have Eyes by Arrow, so that's coming in the mail. This one was absolutely trash, which is unfortunate because it has a lot of things that I like in movies, like weird small towns where they're sort of creepy and they know what's going on, and people come in there and they're acting all suspicious. And it's set. A lot of the film I think is set outside, which is also something that I enjoy. And I hate this movie. It's a movie that is like it's. I think I turned it off 5 minutes before it was over. I think that I hated it that much that I could not even finish it when I was that close to finishing it. And then that same day, I rewatched Friday the 13th Part 2, which, in my opinion, is one of the two best Friday the 13th films by a lot. It is maybe the best sequel to any. It might be the best sequel of all time. I'm not sure. It might be one of the best sequels of all time. It has, outside of My Bloody Valentine, the most likable cast of characters in any slasher. It has two or three of the best romances in any slashers. It has some of the best kills. It has this one of the best Jason designs. And then on the 26th, just like with the other film by him, I watched Blood Massacre. Only, unlike The Alien Factor, I thought this movie was pretty bad. It was good at the beginning, and then by the end of it, I I hated it. And then that same day, I rewatched Jason Lives and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So, in my opinion, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 2, and Jason Lives are on opposite sides of the spectrum, where Part 2 is the best classic Jason movie, where it's just a bunch of kids at a cabin being stalked by a slasher, and it's really simple. But on the other spectrum, Jason Lives is the best of the what I call excess era of Jason, which is it starts with part 5, but that's sort of the bridge between the two eras. And then once you get into part 6 through Jason Lives, The Final Friday, Jason X, Takes Manhattan, those are all excess movies for me. Those are movies that are insane and wild, and it's just about the crazy shit that they could show you. And in my opinion, Jason Lives is the best out of all of those. And then A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is a movie that I'd only seen once in my life, and I watched it probably 10 years ago, around the time that I got into horror movies, along with the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies, not including the first one that I'd seen going into this month. I think that I'm going to do a ranking video in the next week or so because I need to watch a new Nightmare. But other than that, I'm completely 100% on the franchise. So I'm going to do a ranking video of that entire series. So I'm not really going to talk about that or Dream Warriors or Dream Child, or Final Nightmare, which are all on this diary for the month. And then the 28th, I rewatched The Ritual, which has one of the best creature designs probably ever. I really enjoy it as a companion piece to films like The Blair Witch Project, which just feature people wandering in the woods, encountering creepy shit. I rewatched Prey. I actually watched that on the 29th, not the 30th, but I'm not going to go in there and change that. Just like Predators, I really like Prey, and I still really love Prey, but it does not hold up as well as it did the first time that I'd seen it. I still think that it is probably the best Predator movie. I'm gonna rewatch the original soon and like sort of reevaluate how I feel about that franchise. I've always been more of a Predator guy than an Alien guy, but after revisiting two of the three movies that I considered the best films in the franchise and realizing that they weren't quite as good as I thought that they were, I'm starting to reevaluate which franchise I like more. And then today, actually, I watched the new release for Haunted Mansion and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which Haunted Mansion was really alright. I'm not a gigantic fan of the original. I think it's a really good kids horror movie, but it's not like this classic movie that I hold in super high regard. I think that they're both pretty good movies. I think that this one is fun for the performances and the cast and crew, but I think the original one trumps it as far as atmosphere and setting and being a quality horror film. And then the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is the last film on the diary for July, is incredible. I think that it is one of my favorite movies to come out this entire year, and I don't watch a lot of new releases. I think I have less than 20 so far in the year, but this is number 3 for me as of right now. At the end of the year, I'll make a video, and this will probably be in the top 10 even then. So, other than that, I just wanted to go over a few things that I got over the last week. So, my girlfriend, as a early anniversary gift, got me the Kubo and the Two Strings Steelbook, which completes our set for all 4 of them. I really hope that they release The Missing Link because that might actually be my favorite Lecky film. And it's the only one that's probably not going to get a Steelbook, which is really unfortunate. And then I also got My Best Friend is a Vampire, which is spine number 30 for Vestron Video. And I'm going to be doing a video of that probably tomorrow. I'll be making that video. I'm gonna sit down and watch it, probably check out some of the special features and do a full review of the Blu-ray. And those are really like the only 2 things that I've gotten recently in terms of new boutique releases. So yeah, that's my entire diary for the month of July. I'm gonna probably start doing this every single month at the end of the month, as long as I can stick to it. And then in the next couple weeks, I'm gonna have the Vestron Video Blu-ray review, and then I'm gonna have the Nightmare on Elm Street ranking. So those are 2 videos that I'm gonna start within the next week. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Thank you.